Doris Day was one of the most beloved entertainers in American history. Known for her warm smile, gentle voice, and wholesome image, she became a symbol of classic Hollywood charm. Yet behind that bright public image was a life filled with hardship, heartbreak, and complicated family relationships. After her death in 2019 at the age of 97, her only grandson, Ryan Melcher, shared a revelation that surprised many fans. Despite being her only grandchild, he had not seen his grandmother for more than 14 years. Even more shocking, he learned about her death the same way millions of fans did, through a post on Facebook. For many people, this moment raised questions about what had happened inside the private world of one of Hollywood's most famous stars. The woman the world adored for her cheerful songs and warm personality had spent her later years living quietly and almost completely out of the public eye. Friends and fans often believed she had chosen this life simply because she loved peace and privacy. But the story behind her quiet life was more complex. It included family distance, old conflicts, and the long shadow of painful experiences that shaped her decisions. To understand why her grandson's revelation shocked so many people, it is important to look back at the long and remarkable life of Doris Day. Her journey began in a modest home during the difficult years of the Great Depression, and it eventually carried her to the heights of international fame. Yet the same life that brought her great success also brought deep personal struggles that many fans never knew about. Doris Day was born Doris Mary and Kappelhoff on April 3, 1922, in Cincinnati. Her childhood took place during the Great Depression, a time when many American families faced financial hardship and uncertainty. Her father worked as a music teacher, and her mother stayed at home to care for the family. Music was always present in the household, and it quickly became an important part of Doris's life. As a young girl, however, she did not dream of becoming a singer. Her greatest passion was dancing. She loved watching dancers and imagined one day becoming a professional performer on stage. Her talent and dedication made that dream seem possible. But when she was only 14 years old, her life suddenly changed in a dramatic and painful way. She was involved in a serious car accident that badly injured her leg. The injury was so severe that it ended her dream of becoming a dancer. For a young teenager who had spent years practicing and imagining a future in dance, this was devastating. During her long recovery at home, she spent many hours listening to the radio. It was during this time that she discovered another talent she had never fully explored before: her voice. Inspired by singers such as Ella Fitzgerald, she began to practice singing every day. What started as a way to pass the time during recovery soon became something much bigger. Her natural voice, combined with her strong work ethic, quickly turned her into a talented young singer. By the age of 15, she was already performing professionally in small clubs and restaurants. The accident that had once seemed like the end of her dreams had quietly opened the door to a completely different future. Doris's musical talent soon caught the attention of people in the entertainment industry. One of the first to notice her was bandleader Barney Rapp, who believed her name was too difficult for audiences to remember. He suggested the stage name Doris Day, a name that would soon become famous around the world. Her big break came when she joined the band of Les Brown in the early 1940s. During this time, America was deeply involved in World War II, and music played an important role in keeping the spirits of soldiers and their families strong. Doris recorded a song that would become one of the most memorable songs of that era, "Sentimental Journey." The song captured the feelings of millions of soldiers who were dreaming about returning home after the war. It quickly became a massive hit and turned Doris into a national star almost overnight. Her warm voice and friendly personality made her incredibly popular with audiences. Soon she began recording many other successful songs and started performing in larger venues. Record companies recognized her potential and signed her to contracts that helped expand her career even further. By the late 1940s, she had become one of the most recognizable voices in American music. But her success in music was only the beginning. Hollywood studios soon noticed her popularity and believed she could become a major film star as well. This new opportunity would soon lead her into a completely different part of the entertainment world, one that would bring both fame and new challenges. Doris Day's transition from music to film happened smoothly and quickly. Her natural charm and strong screen presence made her a perfect fit for Hollywood's golden age. One of her early film appearances was in the musical Romance on the High Seas, which helped introduce her to movie audiences. As her acting career grew, she starred in many successful films that showcased both her acting and singing abilities. One of her most memorable roles came in the Western musical Calamity Jane, where her lively performance and songs made the film a favorite with audiences. Another major success came with the romantic comedy Pillow Talk, in which she starred alongside Rock Hudson. The film became a huge hit and helped establish Doris as one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. By the early 1960s, she was among the highest-paid actresses in the United States. Her films were popular with families, and her wholesome image made her widely admired. Many fans saw her as the perfect symbol of kindness and optimism. However, behind the scenes, her personal life was far from perfect. While audiences saw a cheerful star on screen, Doris was dealing with personal struggles that few people knew about. The contrast between her public image and private reality would become a major part of her life story. Fame brought success and admiration, but it also brought pressure, complicated relationships, and challenges that she had to face away from the camera's point. One of the most painful parts of Doris Day's life involved her personal relationships. When she was just 17 years old, she married musician Al Jordan. The marriage quickly turned into a difficult and abusive relationship. Living in such an environment was emotionally exhausting, and she eventually decided to end the marriage. After this painful experience, she married again, hoping for a happier future. Her third husband, Martin Melcher, became not only her partner but also her manager. For many years, she trusted him completely to manage her finances and business decisions. Unfortunately, that trust would later lead to one of the most devastating betrayals of her life. When Martin Melcher died in 1968, Doris discovered that he had secretly spent and mismanaged much of her fortune. The money she had earned through years of hard work in music and film had nearly disappeared. She was left deeply in debt and facing serious financial problems. For someone who had been one of Hollywood's biggest stars, this situation was shocking. To make matters worse, many of the financial decisions had been made without her knowledge. Determined to recover from this crisis, Doris continued working. She starred in the television program The Doris Day Show, which ran for several successful seasons. She also took legal action against her husband's business partner and eventually won a large court settlement, although she recovered only part of the money that had been lost. This difficult period changed her deeply and made her far more cautious about trust and privacy. Despite these challenges, Doris Day still found happiness in one important part of her life: her son, Terry Melcher. Terry grew up to become a successful music producer who worked with major artists, including the legendary band The Beach Boys and the folk rock group The Byrds. Doris was extremely proud of his success, and the two shared a close bond for many years. Terry later had a son named Ryan, making him Doris Day's only grandchild. For a time, the family connection remained strong. However, tragedy struck in 2004 when Terry died from melanoma. His death was a devastating loss for Doris. Losing her only child left an emotional gap that was difficult to fill. After Terry's passing, Doris began living an even more private life. During this period, the relationship between her and Ryan reportedly became distant. According to Ryan, outside influences and protective barriers around Doris made it difficult for them to communicate. Business associates and caretakers were said to control access to the star, especially as she grew older. Over time, the distance between grandmother and grandson increased until they had not seen each other for many years. For Ryan, this separation became something he later regretted deeply. In her later years, Doris Day chose to live far away from Hollywood's bright lights. She settled on a peaceful ranch in Carmel, a beautiful coastal town known for its quiet charm. There, she focused her life on a cause that meant more to her than fame or entertainment: helping animals. Throughout her life, she had loved animals, especially dogs, and she decided to dedicate her time and resources to protecting them. She founded the Doris Day Animal Foundation, which works to improve the lives of animals and support shelters. She also supported programs that promoted spaying and neutering pets in order to reduce animal suffering. One of these programs was World Spay Day. At her ranch, Doris lived with many rescued animals and spent her days caring for them. Even though she had stepped away from Hollywood, she occasionally returned to music. Remarkably, she released a successful album at the age of 89, showing that her love for singing had never disappeared. Still, she remained mostly private, rarely giving interviews or appearing in public. Fans often wondered why such a famous star had chosen such a quiet life. For Doris, however, this peaceful existence offered something she valued more than celebrity: calm, compassion, and the chance to help creatures who could not help themselves. When Doris Day passed away in 2019, tributes came from around the world. Fans remembered her music, her films, and the kindness she showed to animals. Yet the story that caught many people's attention was the one shared by her grandson, Ryan Melcher. He revealed that he had learned about her death through social media rather than through family communication. For many fans, this detail was surprising and sad. It suggested that even in the life of a beloved star, family relationships could become complicated and distant. Ryan later expressed regret that he had not tried harder to reconnect with his grandmother before her death. His comments reminded people that fame does not protect anyone from the difficulties of family life. Behind the glamorous image of a Hollywood legend was a woman who had experienced love, loss, betrayal, and deep emotional struggles. At the same time, her life also showed remarkable strength. She overcame injury, financial disaster, and personal heartbreak to build a career that lasted for decades. She also used her influence to help animals and inspire kindness in others. In the end, the legacy of Doris Day is not only about the songs she sang or the films she made. It is also about the complex and human story behind the star, a story that her grandson's revelation helped bring into the light. Doris Day's passing in May 2019 marked the end of an era for classic Hollywood. She died peacefully at the age of 97, leaving behind a legacy that stretched across music, film, television, and animal welfare. News of her death spread quickly around the world, and countless fans shared memories of the actress and singer who had once represented warmth and optimism on screen. Many people remembered her beautiful voice in songs like K Sarah, Sarah, Whatever Will Be, and her cheerful performances in romantic comedies that defined an entire generation of cinema. For fans, Doris Day had always seemed like a symbol of happiness and comfort, someone who represented a simpler and more hopeful time. But as tributes continued to appear in newspapers and online, another story quietly began to gain attention. That story came from her only grandson, Ryan Melcher. Ryan shared that he had learned about his grandmother's death not from family members or close friends, but through social media. The moment was deeply painful for him. Although millions of people loved Doris Day, he was the only grandchild she had. Yet, for more than a decade before her death, he had not been able to spend time with her. According to Ryan, the distance between them had grown slowly over the years, influenced by the complicated circumstances surrounding Doris's later life. When fans heard about this situation, many were surprised and saddened. They had always imagined Doris Day as a loving family figure, surrounded by people who cared for her. Instead, the revelation suggested that her private life was far more complicated than anyone outside her close circle had realized. The situation between Doris Day and her grandson was never fully explained in public, and many details remain private even today. Ryan Melcher has spoken only occasionally about the years when he was unable to visit his grandmother. According to his comments in interviews, the barriers between them were not caused by anger or a family argument. Instead, he suggested that people around Doris, especially those involved in managing her daily life and business affairs, may have played a role in limiting contact. As Doris grew older, she relied on a small group of trusted individuals to help manage her home, finances, and schedule. One of the people often mentioned in discussions about this period was her longtime manager, Bob Bashara. Ryan later explained that security measures and strict rules around Doris's property made it difficult for him to visit. Her home in Carmel was known for its privacy, and access was tightly controlled. For someone outside that close circle, even a family member, reaching her could be challenging. Over time, this distance created a painful separation that lasted many years. Ryan later said he regretted not trying harder to reconnect earlier. Like many family stories, the truth likely involved a mixture of emotions, misunderstandings, and the natural complications that can arise when a famous person lives a very private life. What made the situation especially surprising was that Doris Day had always been known for her kindness and warmth. To many fans, the idea that her only grandson could not easily see her felt difficult to understand. Yet it also showed how fame and privacy can sometimes create walls even within families. Despite the distance from her grandson and the challenges of her personal life, Doris Day's later years were not defined by sadness alone. In fact, many people who knew her during this time described her as calm, gentle, and deeply committed to the causes she cared about. The biggest focus of her life became animal welfare. Over the years, she had grown increasingly passionate about protecting animals and improving their lives. She believed that animals deserved kindness, safety, and respect, and she used her fame to draw attention to these issues. Through the Doris Day Animal Foundation, she helped support animal shelters, rescue programs, and medical care for animals in need. Her efforts also helped promote responsible pet ownership and programs designed to reduce the number of homeless animals. One campaign she supported strongly was World Spay Day, which encourages pet owners to spay and neuter their animals. For Doris, this work became more important than returning to Hollywood or maintaining a public celebrity lifestyle. She preferred the quiet environment of her home, where she could spend time caring for rescued animals and working on projects that helped them. Friends who visited her during these years often said that she seemed happiest when she was surrounded by animals rather than cameras. In many ways, this peaceful lifestyle reflected the values she had developed after decades in the entertainment industry. Fame had once been a central part of her life, but compassion and kindness had become her true priorities. Even though Doris Day had stepped away from public life, her influence on music and film continued to be recognized. Her career had lasted for decades and included dozens of films, many hit songs, and a successful television series. She had worked with some of the most famous performers of her time and had helped shape the image of Hollywood during the 1950s and 1960s. Audiences loved her because she seemed authentic and approachable. Unlike some movie stars who built their careers on mystery or glamour, Doris created a connection with fans through sincerity and warmth. Her songs often carried messages of hope and optimism, which made them especially meaningful during difficult times in history. For example, the song Que Sera, Sarah, Whatever Will Be, became one of her